Welcome to the Blind Android Users channel. This is your source for everything Android, tutorials and demos, all from a blindness perspective. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Now that you have a better understanding on how to go about setting app defaults, let's now hear Ed telling us about Special App Access.
Hello everyone, I'm Ed Green, and this week I'm going to show you a section of app settings called Special App Access. This really builds on the permissions demonstration I recorded last week. Special App Access at its heart really is exceptional permissions that an app might need in order to function. I use the word exceptional advisedly. Special App Access, the clue's in the name. You shouldn't really be granting apps access to things in here as a rule. These are, as I say, special or exceptional things that certain apps might need to be able to have access to in order to function. I'm in App Settings, and the last option in here is
Special App Access. 25 apps can use unrestricted data.
So I'm going to double tap on here.
Settings. Special App Access. Out of list.
Now what I'm going to do is to take you through all of the categories in here of different access to which apps can be granted. I'm not going to stop and explain what each one does necessarily. What I will do though is pause on a few that I want to comment on, because as well as granting permissions in here effectively, or granting access rather, sometimes it's useful to come in here because granting certain access to apps and allowing that access in here can help with certain troubleshooting tasks. So without further ado then, let's get cracking through this settings category.
Navigate up button. All files access and list.
All files access. Most obviously, you're going to want to grant this to your file manager or file managers of choice. Android, I think it was 11, might have been 10, introduced something called scope storage, where essentially apps only had access to bits of the file system they needed access to, typically their own folders for storing stuff or reading stuff. That's no good for a file manager, which needs to be able to access all system files, so you might want to come in here and turn it on. There may be limited other exceptions, but as the name suggests, anything you grant access to in here is going to be able to see all the files on your device, so significant privacy implications of doing this.
Device admin apps. No active apps. Display over other apps.
Display over other apps, you'll often see this when you're installing, say, a screen recorder or an app where you're going to be able to screen share. It might well ask for this as part of the permissions. It'll be fairly streamlined. You won't know the difference unless you happen to know where this is located, that actually it's asking for special app access rather than a permission. Typically, it's all streamlined, as I say, when you install, then open the app on first use.
Do not disturb access. Media management apps. Modify system settings.
Modify system settings. Again, significant implications here because, as it says, it can change your settings, which may not necessarily be helpful. This is the first of my little troubleshooting anecdotes. I didn't have a particularly capable file manager on my phone at the time. I was using Files by Google, which is sort of fine for run-of-the-mill things. But I wanted to install some text-to-speech voice data from our Telegram group into one of the data folders in the Android folder within my file system. And Files by Google couldn't see the folder, or it couldn't see the folder's contents. I can't remember which way around it was. I don't think it could see the folder. And as well as granting all files access, the recommended solution on a forum for this was to allow it to modify system settings. I don't know why particularly. Maybe some of you listening to this do. But allowing Files by Google access to the system settings solved the problem. It could then see the ODB folder where I needed to go and put that voice data, and all went well. I don't think I'd have had this problem with something like Solid Explorer or CX Explorer, either because it would have asked for the special app access permission when it was first run, or because it didn't need this permission in order to do what it needed to do to see the file folder.
Device and app notifications. Picture in picture.
Picture-in-picture. You'll often see this for TV streaming apps. You might start the program and want to do some other stuff on your home screen or in another app, and picture-in-picture will mean that this carries on playing. It can be quite annoying to get rid of, I've got to say. It's not my favourite thing in the world, but I'm glad it exists, so it enables that to happen.
Premium SMS access.
I spent ages on this problem, hours, literally hours. I just got my my Samsung Galaxy A90 5G back in April 2020. It was the first time I'd really full-time switched to Android, as I said in my Android journey, tens of podcast episodes ago now. But I set it up fine. Various apps authenticated themselves by sending me an SMS, a text message with a verification code. It was fine. All the banking apps did. I think PayPal did. WhatsApp possibly, that worked fine. What would not work fine was Uber, and I was requesting these verification codes. I tried it on my iPhone. I tried it on an old Android phone. All worked. Not on my Samsung Galaxy A90 5G. And I had to work quite hard, I think, in the forums to find a solution to it. Lots of people seem to have the problem, but no one had solved it. And what the problem was that my Messages app needed to have access to premium SMS. Now, typically, you need premium SMS when you send a text message to a short code number. In the UK, those are 5-digit numbers. They're often used to message radio stations, to donate to charity, that sort of thing. And those are premium SMS. It's where you say, it's going to cost you however much to send the message, plus your network charge. It's those numbers. But for some reason, in order to receive Uber's verification codes, which is obviously free to do, you don't pay to receive those text messages, I had to nonetheless come in here and turn on premium SMS. Literally, as I said, hours fixing that.
Unrestricted data.
Unrestricted data. Another one to be a little bit careful of, needless to say, if you're on a limited data plan, turning unrestricted data on for a whole bunch of apps is going to burn that data pretty quickly. It might also slow your phone down if all these apps have access to your data in an unrestricted manner. It is, though, another one where troubleshooting possibilities arise. I had a radio streaming app, and I wanted to listen to it on headphones with my screen locked in my pocket. And I would do that, and all seemed to be well, and then after about 10 minutes, it would stop. Now, I went into battery optimization, because that's often a culprit here, and disabled it for the particular app in question. But it still cut off after about 10 minutes. And the problem was that it needed to have access to data in the background. So unrestricted data, essentially. So I came in here, turned it on for the app, and it was all hunky-dory, no problem. It worked absolutely fine. What I will say about troubleshooting those two solutions, both premium SMS and unrestricted data, was that neither app asked for the permissions or the access on use. So these were things I had to come in here and manually do, a little bit like modifying system settings. It wasn't access that the apps had presumably thought they needed in order to function. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have popped up requesting it. But yes, I came in here, turned it on, and it worked. I've got to say, it didn't work for my friend who had a different phone. Same app, same settings changed. Whether optimization on the battery side is done more aggressively on their handset, I'm not sure. But it worked for me on two different handsets. So if an app that's using data does seem to be having difficulties, maybe notifications are delayed, maybe it's stopping, have a look in here if your data plan allows you that flexibility.
Install unknown apps.
Most people won't want to touch this. They won't want to allow anything to install unknown apps. If you grab your apps off the Play Store and that's what you want, then don't come in here. Don't allow apps to install unknown apps. Those of us who judiciously install APKs, having conducted careful risk assessments. APKs are just the app packages you download off the internet, a little bit like a Windows exe file or a Mac DNG. They're just the things you run to install the app. But those of us who make careful risk assessments about judiciously installing these things might need to grant a very few limited apps access to install unknown apps, because they won't be they won't be signed or anything. Play Protect won't recognise them. So you might well need to do that if you want to install apps from. Well, you will need to do this for certain apps if you want to install them. Other apps from outside the Play Store, which will be flagged as unknown apps.
Alarms and reminders. Usage access. VR helper services. Wi-Fi control.
And that's it. So how do we go about granting this access? I'm going to go back. All the screens are pretty similar, to be honest. I'll go back to install unknown apps, and we can see what happens.
VR helper service. Usage access. Alarms and install unknown apps. Unrestricted. Install unknown apps. Settings. Install unknown apps. Out of list. Navigate up. Button. Search. More options. Button. Alpha Backup Pro. Not allowed. And list.
And so you see here a list of apps. Not every app on your system will be listed in every bit of special app access. It is context sensitive. It's going to work out which apps might have the potential to be able to do the thing you want to grant them access for. So in here, it's going to be things like browsers. It might be backup apps. You heard Alpha Backup Pro. So it's going to be context sensitive whenever you open one of these special app access categories. Not all apps can have all special app access permissions granted to them. So that's it, folks. That is my demonstration of special app access.
Thank you, Ed. And as you guys can tell, Ed is not here with us here today. Ed is out there dancing to the ballet. Just kidding. I think Ed's daughter's having like a ballet class, so he has to be there. Ed will be back with us next week. Thanks for listening to another clip from the Blind Android Users channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you're notified of every new material that we upload. Thanks again for listening to the Blind Android Users channel.